it's hard to interview a rock band in the morning, especially on a Saturday. A lot of the great ideas of music come in the wee hours in the morning sometimes.
I've just got a regular schedule, just like anybody else, you know. In fact, it's quite hard to get back into the schedule where you're out at 9 p.m. or out until the wee hours of the morning or whatever. But yeah, it's all good. We jamming a lot, and usually I have either some material already ready to go, or music is a great platform for activism. So right now my heart is set on, you know, land, water, and the air, the protection of those things, especially in this country.
You have a question over here coming from New Mexico. Jacqueline is saying, do they have traveling, or do they plan traveling and doing more shows and events?
Have some shows. Yeah, they'll definitely be promoted and scheduled, and be able to see those dates on our official site is www.bruisedgrass.com. That's where we sell our music and merchandise right now.
We have people already here from Australia, we have people from Slovenia, and you have people from here from the United States on the chat room right now.
Yeah, man, that's a great compliment.
They say, ask about the award they received.
Where's that from again?
This is coming from New Mexico.
Oh, okay. People's Choice Award for 2013, I think is probably what he's referred to. That was just an award given by a local. It was in conjunction with a city of Tallahassee, Florida event with a local TV station, and we just you know, we got some recognition for that. Yeah, that was a great honor, you know, especially coming from my hometown.
We're listening to Mr. Warren SimpleMan Simpson. He's the lead vocalist of Bruised Grass. We're live here on WolfpawRadioOrg. This band comes from Tallahassee, Florida. The music from Bruised Grass can also be available through their website. If you had the opportunity to play with any musician, whether they're still with us or they're not, who would it be? That's a good question coming from Lisa Howard from Australia.
Wow, that is a good question.
We hate you, Lisa, for the good question.
It would have to be a toss-up between Keith Richards and Neil Young. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to decide between the two guys, and that's living. People that have passed, you know, they still might be on that list. You know, there's been such amazing influences in my life. You know, I love all the classics. Leonard Skinner is, you know, from Jacksonville, Florida. They're not too far from where we're from. A lot of our sound comes from that Rolling Stones, Leonard Skinner, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young type of influence. But the list is just, I mean, it's all the favorites. All the good music, I think, in my opinion, came from that, you know, 60s, 70s era, you know, into the 80s a little bit. And I don't think anything's come along that tops that yet. That's such a great question. And you know, it's always really hard to say, you know, who's your favorite band or who's your favorite artist.
I know those questions of who's your favorite is always the tough one, because, you know, it's you know, sometimes you say all of them. We have another question over here coming from New Mexico. Thank you very much, New Mexico, for tuning in with us over here on WolfpawRadio.com. You're listening to an interview that is being held with Warren SimpleMan Simpson, the lead vocalist from Bruised Grass. And yes, it says over here, how did the band started? You know, how did this band started?
Bruised Grass. It's always been kind of difficult to say with that bruised, like bruised, black and blue is what I say. Well, the name came along from a tracking technique, which is actually a good example of it is if you see like tire tracks across grass. You know, what you're really seeing is when you look at that grass, like in the sunlight, whether it be footsteps or tire tracks or whatever, you can see where grass can be bruised, and you can see it, and it's a tracking technique, and that's how the name of it came about. There's been a lot of other assumptions as to what it's about, but that's how and driving on the grass was one of my father's pet peeves when I was a kid. So I guess that's how the name developed. And then the band, at that time, the first incarnation of Bruised Grass was just some friends jamming. We started off really well into the festival circuit, the local festival circuit, and at the time we had a female singer that I was working with. I play guitars primarily. I really don't consider myself a singer. I never really have. I just got kind of stuck with it.
You have another question over here. The questions that are being made to you through this chat room, these are people that are writing also articles as well. So one of the questions that we have says, what got you into wanting to be a musician?
Oh, well, I guess I had no choice in the matter. I mean, it picked me. The guitar has always been a dear kind of extension of me. I started when I was very young. My grandmother gave me this very inexpensive guitar from Kmart, and I took it everywhere, and eventually learned to play a little bit on it. I never had any formal lessons or anything like that. I tried, but it's the guitar is sacred. Is sacred to me, whether it be acoustic 12-string. The electric guitars. Yeah, it's just a very close type of extension that I use to express my voice, I guess you could say. I did have formal training in middle school with drums, but if they had offered guitar, I would have taken guitar. But that was the next coolest thing that I could imagine, and I'm very grateful for that training, because it instilled a really good basis for rhythm guitar, and that's my forte, is rhythm guitar. I'm okay on leads, but that's my strongest point is the rhythm guitar. And
I've spoken to many drummers, and they always said that to me. It's like the guys that start in drums, they want to play guitar. They're in the drums, like, we're in the back over here, man. You guys are moving all around stage and having fun. Nobody sees us behind all these drums and cymbals and that. We can only just sit here.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally for giving props to the drummers, and giving them solos, and those guys are the main force of the whole vibe, and they're stuck in the back. But you can't do music, you can't do rock without them. In fact, it's very hard for me to get with another guitarist or whatever to jam without a beat or drums, or they're like essential. Yeah, music's always been just like I said, it picked me. Whenever I was a kid, it's just one of those things to where you can maybe prop it up to what I was meant to do in life.
You have a question from Slovenia. What inspires them when they write music or lyrics? This comes from Slovenia.
Over the years, it's been different things. I've written songs about war. I've written songs about love. Written songs, about certain particular issues. This latest song that I recorded for the Leonard Peltier clemency campaign it's just basically telling a story. By the way, that can be found at, and only found at www.whoisleonardpeltier.info. They have that up for donation. And if you want to hear it, it's at the Reverb Nation / Bruce Grass Band page, just for streaming. But if you want a copy, you got to go through the Leonard Peltier thing. But getting back to the question about the songwriting, it's really whatever moves me. Right now, I've got a song it's called Monsanto Blues. It's basically inspired from friends who I've lost from Agent Orange. The exposure of chemical defoliants in Vietnam that our government used. They sprayed poison over there that still has lasting effects today, as far as birth defects and whatnot. But personally, I've had three friends who have died, and one who is dying from that stuff. So, and that's Agent Orange, produced by Monsanto. You hear a lot about Monsanto these days with the GMOs and everything like that. And basically songwriting just comes along, whatever's kind of whatever I'm feeling at the time, you know. And I'll write 20 times more than I ever release. You know, it's hard to write a good song or what I consider to be a good song. It's just I've got piles of stuff that I've never used, you know, just because it's a writing it's a practice. It's just like anything else.
You're listening to Wolfpaw Radio, and we're here in an interview with Warren SimpleMan Simpson, the lead vocalist from Bruised Grass from Tallahassee, Florida. It's a wonderful morning over here, like I said, and thank you. We have to thank you very much for being part of our show today. Of course, we will be featuring this interview together with your music, and you know, it's just awesome to have the opportunity to meet you this way. And also, I have to thank all the rest of the people that are. Oh, wait a minute, we have over here. It says, "Is this ask him about the paranormal story?" I think this comes from Rita.
Okay. That's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because, well, I'll tell you the paranormal story. I was asleep in my father's house, and I was sleeping on my stomach, and I felt a hand shaking my shoulder, waking me up, and I thought it was waking up. I thought it was time for work. It was my father waking me up or something. But I was woken out of sleep. I looked up, and there was an apparition, glowing, dull white form of a lady who I'd never seen before in my life. But she was dressed in like late 1800s type garb, maybe some kind of night apparel or something. But you could tell that it was really old, kind of dress. And she just stood there, and she didn't say anything to me, and I didn't say anything, and I was just kind of waking up, and next thing I know, it kind of faded, and I didn't go back to sleep that night, but yeah, that was one of the main things that I've seen that kind of makes my belief, you know, in supernatural or whatever. I don't know if I'm hypersensitive or, you know, whatever, but another incident in that house happened. I was in the same room about to go to sleep, and outside my bedroom door was the kitchen, and the kitchen light was on, but, you know, I could only see the light under the door. And this was back in like the early 90s, and the old box can openers were the only thing available at that time, I think. Or that's what we had, the ones that kind of were, you could move around, and you got to push down on the top to make them turn on, you know. Had that thing come on for about 8 seconds one night when I was in the house alone. And that was very strange because it's one of those models that it takes force to to push down on it and to make it come on, you know. And those two experiences I had in my father's house. Now, recently, I can tell you, I was reminded of the supernatural when I went to Macon. I just went to Macon to do the recording for Leonard Peltier. A friend of mine that I haven't seen since high school stopped by the studio there, and it's where he lives at. And after the session, we went to Rose Hill Cemetery, which is right nearby. And Rose Hill is where Dwayne Allman and Barry Oakley are buried from the Allman Brothers Band. And it's a beautiful little spot called Rose Hill. There's different ridges. If you look up Rose Hill Cemetery online, there's different sections of the cemetery you can look up, and it's because it's pretty big. And I think the brothers, they did a lot of, you know, like they did one of their album covers out there against like a what do you call it, mortuarium or mortuary or whatever you call them, buildings. You know, the in memory of Elizabeth Reed, that song was written from a tombstone, you know, out in that cemetery. It was a place where the band hung out, and you know, there's a at the bottom of the hill there's a river and railroad tracks that run and kind of it was a place where they chilled out and wrote songs and played guitars. And in fact, when I looked on the map of Coronation Ridge, it even shows where an old bandstand was in place. Now, where we were parked, it was me and my friend and his girlfriend. We parked down around where the bandstand used to be and walked up. And right next to Coronation Ridge is Soldier Square, which is an old Confederate Army cemetery as well. So there's very, very old, different Type 5 histories there. Anyway, we go up and we visit, and we're about to leave, and trains. There's a couple of trains that are going by, and Mike's getting some pictures, and just the feeling that I got, the surreal feeling. It was a very, very surreal, very almost eerie. I couldn't before we left. I felt a little bit nauseated, and I couldn't tell if the nausea was from the rumble of the trains going by, or if it was. I mean, they were going by slow, but it was still a vibration, but I just got this feeling out there that reminded me that, hey, there is something to some places, and that's one of them. I believe, I don't know exactly where that feeling was coming from, but it was strong, but I thought I'd share that with y'all, and that's about the extent of my supernatural experience.
Thank you very much for being on the show with us today, and thank you to everyone that participated, people over here asking questions and all that. Is this what?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. My pleasure, man. Anytime, Tony. You guys are great. One of the best interviews I've ever had. I like how it mixes with questions from the public, and it's cool, man. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate it.